Right name.
I was going to do that. You know, this technology, I don't know how many of you may have seen it or not, but, they reached out to me, Patrick and Scott, and, they gave me a whole presentation via Zoom. And honestly, I've said it half a dozen times since. It's like, I felt like I just got through watching an episode of The Jetsons. I mean, you look at The Jetsons. Wait a minute, am I really dating myself right now? But, a lot of things that was in that cartoon some years ago, I don't know. It is reality now. I mean, it's crazy. But anyway, this technology is pretty amazing, and so I'm going to let Pat take it from here. So.
Yep. How's everybody doing? So I started in the cement business. I used to own a manufacturing company called CMP. Back when I was about 20 years old, I used to work at a Red Lobster. My father-in-law asked me if I wanted a job pulling cement bags. So I went to work for a company, started at $8 an hour pulling cement bags, worked my way up to the quality control lab, eventually to the R&D lab. Still wasn't making enough money. I had a wife, had a kid, so I asked one of the chemists to come train me and teach me chemistry on the weekends. I had no college education in chemistry. So he would come over on Saturdays. Eventually, the company I worked for wasn't really into self-leveling. They had one product, they weren't focused on it. So eventually I came up with my own formula. I did at home on the weekends. I offered them if they wanted to purchase it from me. They said, no, we don't want to be in the self-leveling business. So I went to a blender. I found a blender down in Philadelphia. He said he would make it for me. The first year in business, I did, I think, $5,000 or $6,000. 15 years later, I think my revenue was 24 million. Eventually sold that business to Bostic. And when I was at Bostic, which is a much bigger company, which much broader line. When I was leaving Bostic, I left there in 2017. I was in the tech department. I just saw how many phone calls were coming in on temperature-related issues. And I'm thinking, Elon Musk can basically outfit a Honda Accord and send it to Mars, and we can't figure out what the temperatures are on job sites. So I worked with my partner, Scott. We developed a system. We went to Verizon, asked them to customize some sensors for us so we can get real-time data. Not on Wi-Fi, no passwords, very simple. And that's how the system was built. I'm gonna start out by showing you a video. It's with one of the guys from Diversify, which is a large commercial contractor in the country, and Consolidated Carpet. Verizon did it first. They paid for the entire video. They love what we're doing. They're actually kind of asking us to be their interior building monitoring solution. So I'll show you that. Can you hear it?
When we built Floorcloud, we wanted it to be easily used by
the smallest contractors to the largest contractors. Flooring is more complicated than most people might think. Materials can be very sensitive to climate conditions as well as moisture content in subfloor that they can be going over. I've been in the building materials industry for 25 years, and within that space, you are constantly exposed to different situations that can be problematic or tied to lawsuits, job site failures.
We always get put into situations in new construction specifically where they may not have the permanent heating and ventilating. Our ability to monitor the site and make sure that it's adhering to the manufacturer's specifications is critical to us supplying a long-term warranty to the site.
Ultimately, but we've had no control over that site for the weeks and sometimes months beforehand.
We knew that we could find some sensors that would help us monitor things in real time. We would be able to build a system that would help contractors catch things as they occurred so they could respond promptly to solve problems before they escalated. The solution we've launched is called Floorcloud. It's basically comprised of mobile and desktop software, Verizon sensors that monitor ambient conditions, but also through a third-party integration, monitor concrete relative humidity, which is the moisture of the slab, as well as concrete slab temperatures.
We can work in partnership with our clients, install the Floorcloud device, and monitor the site throughout the construction process, make sure the conditions are optimal when we get on site eventually.
If we ever install a product outside of specifications,
When we started the company, we immediately started to look into different sensor technology. The Verizon devices that we've gone to market with are extremely reliable. Scan the QR code on the front, they connect to the Verizon network, and our client is basically reading data within 30 minutes. Those conditions are checked against our manufacturer's database. If conditions on site go out of spec, our clients can push notifications to their phones.
The major difference between other products we use in Floorcloud is that the data is at your fingertips and it's readily available.
Floorcloud does not rely on Wi-Fi connections, it relies on cellular. So with a good Verizon connection, it makes the product work.
When we started the company, our goal with launching our solution was to be able to say to the market that we have a solution no matter where you are. We turned to Verizon, we tested our sensors and found the activity to be exceptional.
My team helps companies like Floorcloud quickly and seamlessly ramp from a product concept to full IoT solution implementation. The obstacles they have are things such as hardware design, hardware sourcing, hardware infrastructure, doing all the certification on the carrier network, doing the integration, doing the logistics, doing the fulfillment, doing all the firmware over the air. We provide all that to them so they can just focus on their customer.
The relationship with the Verizon team has been very personal. They almost feel like an extension of our engineering team.
I think this solution is for the entire construction industry. Technology is a critical piece of the way things are done, and if we don't adapt to the new technologies in our industry, we'll be left behind.
I would highly recommend working with Verizon. The coverage in North America is exceptional. The devices that they've shown us are terrific, robust, and reliable.
So there's another one here, Dan Ald, I won't play, but this also works in residential. Actually, you know what, I'll play it for you. It's like 2 minutes. This is Dan Ald, he's from Wisconsin. He is the perfect hardwood installer. And what he does is he puts on every residence and he actually charges for the service. So he's actually making more money on Floorcloud than we are. He's a great guy. Here's his overview.
I own it. Sorry. So I'm Dan Ald. I own Integrity Flooring, and we're out of Hudson, Wisconsin. We are a hardwood flooring contractor. We do installations, sanding, and refinishing of hardwood floors. The number one benefit that kind of decided that we wanted to use Floorcloud was the ability to remotely monitor site conditions from where we are, anywhere, whether we're at the office or at home, and be able to see the data and what's going on site, and then also being able to record and store that data for an extended period of time. This is very important for any contractor, any foreign contractor in general, because you need to prove what happened on site during that installation process. If they do not have the data, they will automatically fail an installation inspection because they don't have that data. And so having that data and storing that data is key to protecting yourself as the contractor, having peace of mind while an installation is going on. And it's also a great benefit to the homeowner. We've encountered multiple installation issues while we've been using Floorcloud. Of that, if you are an NWPA member, which means you would adhere to the NWPA standards, it is paramount that you are monitoring job site conditions. And Floorcloud makes it so easy to be able to do this and put your contents or the subfloor and really solidify the NWPA standards and also that data for anything that might come up in the future. So the way we use Floorcloud is we do a pre-project inspection, which means that we send our project manager out to the job site, and his job is to make sure that the job site is ready for us to perform the work there. In doing that, he will set a Floorcloud monitor on site, and once we determine that those site conditions are in spec, then we will set up the wood delivery for acclimation, so the wood can be delivered to the site. And while we're doing our installation process, we're monitoring site conditions such as relative humidity and temperature. we're also putting in data such as moisture contents of the wood floor and the subfloor into that Floorcloud system, and it's keeping track of that the whole time. Floorcloud is the necessary tool for every wood flooring installer, any flooring installer, to provide protection for them, peace of mind for them and the homeowner, to ensure that there are proper site conditions for installation.
So you guys can answer any questions you want as I go through this. Right now we have about, this slide is updated, we have 150 commercial contractors on. We started the subscription process about 18 months ago, 19 months ago. The big news is not one person is canceled. And typically in software, this is our first entry into software, you usually get some cancellations. In fact, when we sell somebody a software, they're very apprehensive because it's a subscription, but they'll start out with 1 or 2. We have guys that started out with 1 or 2 that are up to 40. So we work with the manufacturers as well, so we'll reach out to them. They send us their data. They can't see the job site statistics at all, but they'll send us data, any product updates, and these are, we call them manufactured verified partners. There's probably 50 on now, and our goal is to continue to work with them. This is the easiest system you will ever use. It's easier than, if you ever hooked up a home router, a Wi-Fi router at home, 10 times easier. You don't need to hire anybody to do it. It's not a Salesforce, it's not a SAP. You don't need to hire people to manage it. You need a PM and a job site and a sensor, that's it. How it works is you get mobile and desktop software. It also works on the iPad. You put a Floorcloud sensor on site. Once you scan the QR code on the front, every hour you're gonna get condition readings. What it does is it comes through our system, it goes through the product database. So for example, if you're installing Ardex Feather Finish, and I think that's 50 to 80 degrees, right? Somewhere is 50 to 80. If it goes to 49 or 81, you're gonna get alerted. We didn't build this system to provide evidence when there's a problem. We built this system to protect from the problems from happening. We also have a third-party integration with Wagner, where you can now remotely monitor the substrate conditions as well. You get the readings every hour. When product goes out of spec, you'll get a push notification. It'll tell you what the alert is. This one's at Brigham Hospital, 50th floor. It's for a ropey product. It's been below temp spec range for 1 day. The lowest is 15 degrees below spec. Most of our guys are on this screen 95% of the time. And what they do is they'll get these conditions, because you never want to have that conversation with a GC. It's very uncomfortable. They hate when you say we think it's too hot or it's too cold. This is clear data. So most of the time the guys will hit the share button. It'll send a graph, all the products that are out of specification. Like Seth said yesterday, let the manufacturers be the bad guy. It'll send all that information, and whatever note you put in, we don't feel comfortable, we want to wait for permanent heat in or permanent HVAC. It's just an easier way to start that conversation. Sensors are about the size of a deck of playing cards. It measures temperature, humidity, dew point, and GPS. Also measures light, which we don't have in there yet. Out of the box connectivity, so you're not taking this to a site asking for Wi-Fi, any passwords or anything like that. You literally take the sensor, you scan it, it's connected. 3-month battery life, so it doesn't have to be plugged in. You can leave it plugged in forever and monitor, or you can unplug it and leave it on site for 3 months. It will notify you, I think, at 25% and 10% when the battery's getting low. It's super easy to mount. You use double-sided stick tape. The coverage is about 10,000 square feet in open space. Obviously, if you have a hospital or multiple rooms, you might need 1 or 2 sensors. A good example of coverage is we did Yukon Hospital with Higgins. That was 218,000 square feet, and they used 5 sensors throughout the whole project. Because you're connecting them and disconnecting them. So if you use them in this room, and say you're done with this room, you just disconnect the sensor, go to the next room, reconnect it to that section. All the data that you collected in here is stored in the app. When we built it, we were way worried about current installation. Me and Scott weren't contractors, so we focused on the calls we got on the tech service side. We didn't think of pre-installation. So where we're finding a lot of guys are saving money is they'll put one of these or two of these out front by a month or two. So when the GC calls and says, hey, we're ready to install, you can look at your Floorcloud monitor and say it's 43 degrees, we're not sending a crew. Pavilion in Boston, I think he said he saved over $15,000. They're a union contractor. So when he gets the call that they can start, it's very simple for him to look at the app and know that they can. Obviously, you have your live installation monitoring during the installation. That'll help you stay within warranty. The other big one that we didn't realize is, and there's a good example of this in California with a company called CIR. They had a 160 unit multifamily project. They left 2 sensors behind. General contractor called them about a month later and said, hey, we got a ton of gapping. You guys screwed up. We need you to come back. Says, well, Ken had a Floorcloud monitor. He looked and the GC had lowered the temperature from 82 degrees to 68 in a 24-hour period. Shocked the floor. So not only, did Ken have to deal with the headache, he actually got paid to come back and fix it because he had the data. This is how simple it is to set up. You literally open your app, you put in your project name. We do everything by section because if you're doing Lou Migliore Hospital, you're not doing the whole hospital at once. You're gonna do it in sections. So this example is TD Bank. So you're doing TD Bank, you add the section of the conference room, it takes you through step by step. You connect the climate sensor, scan the sensor, you hit the climate, click the climate sensor button, your camera will open up on your phone, you scan the QR code, and you're connected. For about 30 minutes, it'll tell you that it's establishing connection. That doesn't mean it's struggling for connectivity or anything. It's just the sensor acclimating to that space. Once you do that, now you can add your products. You don't have to do anything with uploading specifications or any of that. They're all in our database. So in this example, we're gonna add a product, say it's a Shonox product, add product, Shonox, you click AP. Once you hit save, it's gonna start monitoring the AP, the Shonox AP specifications to the conditions on site. And you get the alerts like I showed you in the past. The other thing is additional features. So if you go to the StarNet Fuse conventions or listen to Lou or some of the attorneys, every single one says take pictures, but no one takes pictures. I was in the leveling business and guys would call me. I mean, we would do jobs from 1 pallet to 200 truckloads and they would call me and say, my cement's cracking. Well, the first thing a manufacturer asks, Seth's gonna attest to is, what's the batch number? When did you pour it? What were the conditions? And the smallest guy to the biggest guy doesn't keep that. This makes it super simple to store batch codes, store information, store data, and take as many pictures as possible. Most guys are implementing with the Floorcloud system, telling their crews we want 10 pictures before, during, and after. And all that information is stored on the cloud. The other thing that we started last week or the week before is Robert talked about uniting the manufacturers and the contractors. So how many guys in here are contractors? So probably 10%. All the teachings we did yesterday were awesome. Dean's thing was awesome, Seth's was awesome. It is very difficult from a manufacturer standpoint, because I was one, to get the important information that they talked about into the installer's hands, right? Usually you come up with a tech bulletin, it sits on a website. No installers read websites. If you send it out through distribution to their sales team, they're not sending out tech bulletins. Or if it's a big company, you send it to the president of a $100 million flooring contractor, and it never trickles down. With this, so we have over 1,000 users on the system now. If Arctic's put out a full how to work in cold weather conditions, that would never make it down to the installer. So now we can deliver that information directly to their phone. If there's a change in tech specs, so if Seth says, we're gonna change the water requirement or change the temperature range for Arctic's Feather Finish, they let us know. The next time a contractor goes to select Arctic's Feather Finish, it'll say, Feather Finish specs have been updated. Please refer to the technical data sheet, and we send a link. In addition, you can also, we don't we tell the manufacturers, we just started this, but we don't care if people had an anniversary or you built a plant in Texas or, you know, you're adding one of 40 more adhesives. We want real life technical help that can get to the installers in the field. So we curate the information. So you're not going to see that Susie had a 30-year anniversary in office at the manufacturing plant. It's simply going to be technical bulletins and updates. The Wagner, so Wagner, if you guys use in situ probes, you use your standard probe. Wagner also sells 3 additional components that helps talk to the Floorcloud sensor. If you have 1 sensor in this room, you can connect 500 Wagners. There's no limit on Wagner connection to one. It just has to be within 200 feet of the Floorcloud sensor. Because what you'll see is here's the Wagner probe, there's the data grabber, that's taking the data, pushing it out. That's a Bluetooth extender, it sends it out in the air, and we grab it, collect it, and send it back to you. Reporting, so we have a couple different reports. A lot of guys like this, we just came out with it. This is a report, a submittal sheet that you can send to the GC beforehand, so you let him know what conditions need to be. The bigger report that most guys send is the week, you can customize this. You can do it by any date you want, weekly, daily. On the left, you'll see the cover page. In the middle, you'll see the job site statistics. It's your dew point, your ambient humidity, and your ambient temperature. If it's green, you're good to go. If it's red, that means there's a product on that site that's not within the temperature range. And below here, you can turn this on or off. For example, it says XL Brands Dynastics, below humidity spec for 4 days or 41% of the time. So it has all the product stats on there as well. On the right, that's where you can quickly type in, and you can do this on the mobile or desktop. You know, here's a report from last week's statistics. We got to get the temperature up, blah, blah, blah. And then any pictures or notes you take that you want the GC to see, you can't put in there, this GC's a jerk, he doesn't pay his bills because he's going to see it. But you can toggle on and off. So it's a really easy customizable report that Higgins, that's the one who asked us about the reporting in the beginning. Andrew was spending anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half a week collecting pictures from all of his guys. We took it to 5 minutes because he put his guys on the thing, they upload the pictures, he just toggles what he wants, and he's got all the reporting there. Same thing with slab conditions report. You get a 2-page report. Anything is green is good. Anything on the anything in red is bad. And on the right is kind of the old school Excel looking file. They both come out in the same report. This is kind of how we sell it to people. So if you got to send a guy out to a job, whether it's in New York City and you got to pay an incredible amount of money for parking or tolls at the bridge, or you got to drive 2 hours in a rural area, it's about $300 to go check site conditions. We've seen, I mean, I'd say 50% of our customers say that this has saved them multiple times from sending crews to a site that aren't ready. And we figure that, and you know, a union, non-union, we blended, it's about $700 if you send 3 guys out and they can't work because of temperature conditions. So we figure we save guys around $1,000 a month who are on the system. That doesn't include any cost of failures, potential client loss, and the finger pointing back and forth. This is how we sell it. It's $79 a sensor. That's an all-in cost. It is mobile and desktop. You get as many reports as you want. It's all the data storage you need. Unlimited report generation and the cellular plan. So that's the all-in cost for it. We usually tell guys to start out small, 1 or 2 sensors, make sure you're going to use it, and no one is canceled. And again, we have guys up to, I mean, Diversify is probably over 100 sensors, but they have multiple locations. Pavilion's probably the biggest single location, they have 25. And they've made it a process that it goes on every single job. And we end by saying, Floorcloud is the cheapest insurance you could buy. It's data. That's all you guys are looking to collect is data. And that's it. Any questions?
Do you have to have a Verizon to use it?
No. No, this is completely independent from anything that you have. So if I hand you a sensor right now, doesn't matter if you have AT&T or Boost Mobile or Cricket, you just scan it, put it on the wall, and that's all through the Verizon side.
By the way, I did hand you a sensor when you got here.
Yeah. I would say most questions are, well, when we first started it, I promise you, 100 out of 100 people said, you guys are nuts. The GC is absolutely going to hate this. They're not going to use it. They're going to hate the reports. That is the complete opposite of what's happening. Most of these new GCs guys are younger guys. They're used to the data, and they're now customers. Consigli just signed up with us. They ordered 100 sensors, I think, the other day. They need it to monitor mill work, wall coverings, and all the other stuff. So the other good thing is you guys can also put your GC on your job. So if you want to have your GC where you don't have to report and you can have them see just that job you want them to see, you can add him to the system and he can see everything. I would charge for that because what GCs do now is if you ever see them, they go by CVS thermometers and they have one guy walk on every floor. So this definitely saves them a ton of money and time. And again, they need the data. But every one of them said GCs are never going to buy into it. Suffolk's on. We've done work with Gilbane, Consigli, Veterans United. There's a couple big ones out in the Midwest we're working with, and they all love it because they have the data. They do work inside, interior and exterior. The other thing is theft. Everybody had told us, I work in Brooklyn or I work in downtown Atlanta. These things are going to get stolen. I think we've had one taken. We have over 1,000, maybe 1,500 out there. We were telling guys in the beginning to hang them on the steel studs with little metal discs. And if you've ever been on a job site, the sheet rockers don't care what's on that wall. So we could see the light. We could see the light on the admin side. All of a sudden, it just goes dark. So they would drywall over them. So then we started making signs, and since then, we haven't had any issues of theft. We do tell you, don't lie to the GC. Go in there and tell them what you're doing. Say, hey, we're going to monitor the space. And again, they'll typically ask you for the data. If we could ask anything of the people in here, if you're a manufacturer, the things that we talked about yesterday are all awesome things. I learned a lot of stuff. But we can help deliver that to the people who need it most in the field, which is the installer. So if you want to make a 30-second video that's important, that you think the installers in the field need to see, send it to us. We'll put it on Gangbox, and I promise you they'll watch it. So, and that'll continue to grow over time. So, that's it. Any other questions?
Is there a need in the future to integrate video recording with that?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many different things now with technology you can do. It's pretty cool. Eventually, we have to work with the manufacturers, but most of these guys, Ardex, Mapei, especially on the sundry side, have tech reps, right? They're not sales guys. They go out and look at jobs. So we want to eventually in the future, hopefully at some point, if you're in Detroit and you need tech help, you can hit a button and it calls your local rep, or you can send the information to your local rep. So we're just at the beginning of what this thing can do. It's pretty cool. But again, we're trying to get the information that you guys talk about into the hands of the installer. So anything you can provide us, a tech tip, anything small, send it to us. We'll put it in the system. No other questions? Thank you.